My name is Lindsey Nemec, and I am a COS alumni. Okay, so I grew up in the suburbs outside of Buffalo, North Tonawanda to be specific. I went to a really huge high school there. I ran track. In fact, fun fact, I was on varsity track in 7th grade. So that is a shining accomplishment for myself. But anyways, I had always wanted to move to California, be in California, and so, all throughout, even when I was really little, I wanted to be in California. So when I got to high school, my parents were helping me figure out where I wanted to go in California, and really we just searched the internet, and I landed on COS or CR, College of the Redwoods, and was kind of going back and forth on that, and it was the COS website actually that kind of sold me on going to COS. There was a giant picture of the mountain and all the views of the mountains and hills around it that really sold me. It was a small school and I was really looking for something small. I don't have any family in California. Well, I did at the time. I had an uncle, but he lived in San Diego, so I didn't have anybody here, so I really wanted something small that I wouldn't feel overwhelmed with. And then I remember there being this little blurb on the website that said something along the lines of like, students work at the ski park in the winter and the golf resort in the summer. And so even though I never worked at either of those places, that's kind of what sold me on COS. I'm a skier, and that kind of sold me. So I moved to California in 2001 and immediately started at COS. But before that, what was really helpful that COS did for me, and specifically Sunny Green, she made arrangements so that I could take like my entrance exams at a college in Buffalo, so that when I came out to California, I could already start working on my class schedule and things like that. I didn't have to worry about where I would land with classes. I think COS also helped me find an apartment, so I lived off campus in Dunsmuir, and so I had classes every day, full-time student, and my goal was to go get all my transfer credits and then transfer over to Humboldt State. So I did 2 full years at COS, full-time student the whole time, and then 4.0 student, and transferred over to Humboldt State. I also worked for Gear Up, which was at the time, I think, a program through COS where I went into classrooms and tutored students at Weed High School. So when we moved to Humboldt in late July, early August of 2003, we were having a really hard time finding a place to live because we had a dog. And the only place we could really find, prior to that, we were kind of camping and living out of my truck. And so we did manage to find a little studio apartment in Hydesville, which is south of Fortuna. And so at that time I needed to ride the bus to college because I didn't have enough money to put gas in my vehicle. But the bus didn't go to Hydesville, so I would have to get up very early in the morning, sometimes when it was still dark, and hitchhike from Hydesville to Fortuna so I could grab the bus and then ride the bus an hour into Arcata to make my 9 a.m. math class, and then do the same thing on the way back. Thankfully, I only had to do that for a little bit. Thankfully, I got picked up by very nice people, families mostly, and if my mom watches this, really sorry, Mom, because I won't do it again, promise. Okay, so I graduated, well, I didn't actually graduate from COS, I transferred in 2003, and then went to Humboldt State and got my BA in elementary education, and then my teaching credential from Humboldt State as well. And as soon as that was done, came right back to Siskiyous County, and I had no money and some debt too, and I was applying for jobs in Siskiyous County, but there weren't very many teaching jobs. In fact, there were maybe 3 in the whole county for my degree, and so I I applied for whatever was available, and then I almost ran out of gas on the way to my interview because fresh out of college, I just had no money, and so I was doing, fingers crossed, hoping and praying that I would get this job, and I did end up getting that job. I got hired right away at Delphic Elementary School in Montague, a little 3-room schoolhouse. I taught combination 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then I moved over to high school, and I was there for 10 years, and now I've been here at Sisson for 3 years. I worked at Delphic for 5 years, and then I was ready for a change, and so I applied at what was then Mattole Valley Charter School, which is now Northern United Charter School, and I got hired there and resigned from my position at Delphic, and was kind of thrown into this world of independent study charter school, tons of paperwork, and was gearing up to get ready, and then it was like I got a call when I was at a conference. I was presenting at a conference actually, and it was like, oh, we don't know if there's a position for you anymore. And I had already resigned, but thankfully they worked with me and they figured out a place for me, and very quickly I found my footing there, and then I was there for 10 years, happily there for 10 years. I have nothing but good things to say about that school. Okay, so my time at Northern United, I was in charge of coordinating the center, so things, logistical things with staff, also attendance related things. If a student was really struggling with their attendance, I met with them, had conferences with them, but I also had an independent study roster, and I taught 2 high school level math classes and 2 high school English classes. So when I left Northern United, I was just really ready to just be a teacher, and I know that just being a teacher is never just that, but I really wanted to be back in the classroom and focusing on students and curriculum and things like that.
So Kale Rickamini is your boss. He too is a COS alumni. Let's hear a little bit about him and your experience working with him here and just in a small community.
I have so much respect for Kale. He is, I've had some really good bosses, but he is, at the top of my list. He treats us like professionals. He doesn't overly micromanage us, and he always has our back. And I can say the same thing with the students. You can tell he cares. He cares about us. He cares about our students. He cares about this whole community. And I don't know what I'm going to do when he retires. I just really cannot imagine working for anyone else.
Okay, how did COS prepare you for transferring to Humboldt and then where you are now in your career?
Well, I feel like because COS, I felt so supported by COS and my advisors. Everything felt really organized, and so I knew what to expect when I was going to Humboldt State. I also felt really prepared with my classes. I felt like the rigor of the classes matched what I was going to experience at Humboldt State. The amount of work, the level of work, and I did also feel really supported by my professors at COS. And how has it prepared me? I mean, I'm a school teacher, so, here I am, and there were things that, I model off of the classes that I got there as far as how to help support students be successful.
Okay, if you had to describe your experience at College of the Siskiyous in one word, what would it be?
Support.
If you were going to be giving advice to any incoming students coming to College of the Siskiyous, what advice would you give them?
The advice I would give them is do not be afraid to reach out for help. Do not be afraid to communicate with your teachers, to let them know what you need to be successful. And there are so many resources at COS, and do not be afraid to ask about them and find out more about them and take advantage of them.
All right, what are the main differences that you see between coming from Buffalo on the East Coast and the West Coast and living up here in Northern California?
Well, for one, and the biggest one, and it was a factor for me for sure, was the cost. When I went to COS, it was $12 a unit. I know it's not that anymore, but I'm sure it is still a lot more reasonable than the East Coast, which is, it could be anywhere from $300 to $500 a unit. So much cheaper. And also the class sizes are smaller. And I just felt more connected to the school community.
Had you ever come to California before you chose to move here?
Nope. Moving to California was my first plane ride ever, and really, I had done some traveling on the East Coast, but other than that, no, I haven't been up here.
What are your favorite memories that you have from going to college at the Siskiyous, or just being in this community?
Well, I am a big reader, and in my free time, I loved the library. I did. I would post up in a little corner and read whatever I could get my hands on there. And so the library has a real special place at my heart, and I also like the trails that go all around the school. I love COS, and I taught high school, and so a big part of that is helping them figure out where they want to go to college, and I'm always pushing College of the Siskiyous. It was perfect for me. I felt taken care of. I felt like the rigor matched where I was coming from and where I wanted to go. I felt supported, and so my time at COS was exactly what I needed at that time. I got my transfer credits and transferred right to Humboldt State. I felt prepared. I even stayed in touch with some of my professors after that for a while, and I felt taken care of.